So after you've done your cross contour lines and we've had our post, you can start early too if you want, if you've done all those 7 steps and you're ready to go. Just like we did on the warm-up, you're going to mix white, light gray, medium gray, dark gray, so you want to have at least one pile of each somewhere. You can also start mixing in between as needed, but you want to start with that. So I have my one brush, and I always say start with the biggest brush with white because you can mix in with a pool of white. And then you're going to have a brush that's for light gray, and I may even mix another gray because it's a little bit too dark, I think. I like to use 7 steps, but when you only have 3 brushes, it's good. And then this one is your middle value here. It's a little dark too, so I may be making more, but then I have my dark, and so I have a brush for white, medium, and I consider the middle value dark. If you start going over in here, it can get a little bit too dark too fast. But I wanted to show you what I'm doing here. I'm applying a lot of white paint, not so much that it's so textural, but I want to put it in here. And remember, I'm going this way, and I'm also going this way because that was the way that I realized the object was moving. Now down here, you can see on here, it's very light of a blend. So I want to pull this down and then start doing my blending with this other brush. So I'm going to start blending in this area much smoother. And remember, we have 2 things. We're going up and down, side to side, but also a little bit of crisscross just to get it integrated. And then at the same time, you're going to be doing your hard edge painting, which is going like this side to side when it gets to the edge. So you're doing constantly on here a combination of hard edge and blending. And remember, when you're blending, you can only do one little area at a time. And you may get a great blend, but come back and find out that it's too dark. So I'm going to start blending this in here. Remember, I don't want to get too thick, but the big brush is helpful. Now see, I got 2 gray in here, so I might have to come back and put more white there. And I got some blobs there, whatever, that's fine. But again, I told you that I had a value that I thought was too dark, and that's exactly what happened. I need to go back to my palette and mix a value between this and white so that I can integrate it in here. But remember, it's real feathery. I'm holding the brush far away, and I'm crisscrossing, but I'm also conscious of the up and down that I want to do. At this point, I can decide maybe these brushes are too small for the area. Maybe I'll upgrade to a slightly bigger brush for this. But you definitely want to have a different value on each brush to start. And you only have a limited time, so you might redo this area over and over and over until you like it and it's smooth. If it gets paint in there, pick it up like that. Keep going. You don't want to create that weird texture. But our goal is to go smooth. I don't think this is even any darker than this. Hard edge, and then pulling it in. And what I meant about back and forth is I would go back and forth here, 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 because I don't want to create a weird edge here. So I'm going to have to come back in. This is going to be that line, but it's not a line, it's a value right in here. So instead of doing that, I'm going to just do a blob and then reshape it later with this value. So it's a softer blend. So I'm going to start blending into here too. This is another area where I can blend and correct my values. But remember, if this sits too long, it's going to dry and it's going to be really hard to get rid of the texture. But white gets eaten up so fast, you have to come back with it a lot. And the good news is it takes a lot to cover the grid. So it's a good excuse to get better coats on here. But that blend is so subtle that I don't want to overdo. And it actually has a little light edge on the bottom. and then goes into a gray. So I can do something like this and pull that edge out, and then come in with that other brush and do that slightly darker than the white gray. That's more like that edge right there. So it's just a nuancing back and forth, back and forth. And of course you have to keep an eye on the value, the direction, the placement. It's a lot to think about and remember. But if you've got an area that's too big for the brush, you might want to switch that out. And you don't want to create any of these little lines on the edge, so there's ways you can get rid of it. Like I could come back here and pull this edge that got a little lumpy into this so that I don't create that weird texture. And if it's a little thick, just wipe off the brush somewhere else, on the palette, on a paper, on a towel, so you don't get that thick paint texture. Like right there, see that line? I have to go like this. It's the only way to get rid of it. And then I can paint back over here, and now it's gone. But then I have to repaint up there. It's a back and forth. But you want to really keep your eye on your picture more than on the subject, because you can get lost really easy. I'm trying to look at both at the same time so that I can get accuracy but also technique. You don't want to get too caught up in the technique that you forget where things are in the picture. And the great thing about acrylic is when it dries quickly, you can go back easily and fix it. So I can come back here pretty quickly and fix that little blur that I had to do to get rid of that edge. And I thought the gray was too dark anyway, so I have an opportunity to make this lighter and blend into the white. Got a little watery there. You just have to be really clear on everything. And I'm going past the line a little. I don't like that. So this is an opportunity for the back and forth. So I can come back here now and crisp this up again. So it's a hard edge, kind of a line, but it's too dark. So again, you might get it right in terms of placement, but then you have to go back in and change the value of it. But it's a little easier to do that when it's already there. And there's some little ridges in here that I'm going to get to. The more you can really get the subtle things, the more it's going to look realistic. That's what realism is a combination of abstract shapes that people put in the right spot. That's all. So just keep building here. Remember to have a really large bottle of water jar, because you don't want it to get too mushy. See, now I'm getting closer to the shape, but I made it a little too thick, and then here now I have that thing again, so I have to go like that and paint it back, same as the other time. And if you step back a lot and look at your picture a lot, you'll see if you're going off kilter. So I see that I have a light right here that I'm missing. So I'm going to place that in while I'm seeing it. And I'm going to use white just because white is a great way to start, because you have a pool of white and then you can blend in. Now remember that weird shape right there that I was into with the leg and the head? I'm going to place that in here by painting around it. And then I want to control the consistency. I need a smaller brush for this area, but I just wanted you to see the process. Fill over there a little bit gray. So little by little. And if you step back, you can start to see, like I see my swoop is too tall. So that's something I want to adjust. But I'm starting to get a sense of the values in here. Start large, then zoom in. That's the next step. And of course, mixing is everything. Have 5 different values on your palette at all time and at least 3 brushes going. Just rinse them and wash them a lot, because if you wait too long, they'll stick on there and it won't be any good.